Stenhouses.
Excellent.
There is a third Stenhouse we should point out. Isn't there Dave Jr. who got called up? He never really made it to the show. Didn't he get as far as the Syracuse Sky Chiefs, the AAA affiliate of, well, next year they're going to be the AAA affiliate of the New York Mets, but it used to be the Washington Senators and Nationals, right?
Well, his career was shortened because he got a foul tip that took the middle knuckle of his throwing hand all the way back to his wrist, and he never recovered it from it. It was a career-ending injury.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know that, Mark is 3 years my junior. I'm 58. Mark's 55. Have no idea how old Mike is, but all I can tell you
60.
is when I last saw Dave Stenhouse Sr. 9 years ago at this Barnes and Noble out in Providence, I only wish that when I turn 75 or 76, I look half as good as this man did. And I've seen pictures of him now. He's an octogenarian in his mid, 85 or 86?
Close to it, yes.
You've got to see this guy. He could probably put on the uniform right now. I mean that sincerely. I am not a sycophant, but he is in great shape. So please tell us, how do you stay in shape? I mean, how many rounds of golf and tennis do you play?
I play one round of golf a week, but I work my butt off in my yard. I have a big yard, and I'm out there mowing lawns, pulling weeds, cutting things down. So I keep busy.
Good man. Well, we a lot of our listeners know that obviously you started the '62 All-Star Game, and I think we ought to take it from there, because back in the day, a lot of people don't know. Here's a ham-handed segue. There were 2 All-Star Games a year. I think it went on for 2 or 3 years, but ostensibly they were held to fund, ironically enough, the pension plan. The same pension plan that now excludes men like Dave Stenhouse. And a couple of weeks ago, in the Wall Street Journal, the 60-year-old, your son, penned a great column about why he feels you're being blatantly taken advantage of. And as all the people on this network, and this is the flagship show of Mad Radio Network, know, we really believe that not only are you being hosed, and not only are you being taken unfair advantage of, but there's another member of the Stenhouse family that's being taken advantage of, and that's the missus, your wife, your bride. Because, and we don't wish you ill, but when you go, that blood payment that you're getting since April 2011, goes with it. So people say, oh, you're getting a stipend, you're getting a pension. No, a pension is supposed to be able to be passed on to whichever designated beneficiary or loved one or spouse that you deem it appropriate. And could you just please tell our audience, I mean, in no uncertain terms, I know how you feel, but how do you feel, Dave? I mean, after all this time, you're not being shown the respect that you deserve and the attention that you deserve.
Well, first of all, I'm not doing this interview to knock Major League Baseball. After all, they did come through with a gratuitous payment, and that word gratuitous really hit the wrong nerve. And when I got that last payment in, I sent a letter to Commissioner Manfred and explaining my disappointment on the way the pension was handled from the very beginning. And he was very gracious enough to respond. He wrote a letter back, a very nice letter, so that showed me a lot of class. And, I appreciate the fact that they did something for us, but it really doesn't. It doesn't cover the ground that you mentioned, and it does hurt me a lot to know that my wife is not going to benefit from the 12 tough years she had to endure in the baseball profession during my playing time. So yes, you kind of hit it on the button, but I just want you to know I'm not here to knock Major League Baseball. I don't want to do that. I've said enough about it. I've made my anger very open to them, and they know it. So I'm trying to find out why, back when the plan was first devised or developed, how in the world could they leave guys who've been in the big leagues 2 or 3 years off it, knowing what they went through in the late 50s and early 60s? I mean, we had a rough go to get to the big leagues in the first place. There was only 16 teams, and when we got there, there was 3 AAA teams who had great players. And by the way, a lot of those players at AAA back in those days, a lot of the guys playing in the big leagues today, couldn't even make those teams. But that's another point. So that we went through a lot to get here, and I've always said that to get to the big leagues, 3 things got to happen. You got to be good. You got to be free from injury, and you got to be at the right place at the right time. Now, I have a plus on one of them. I was good. I'm going to say that. I was. I wouldn't have pitched in the All-Star game if I didn't. If Ralph Falk didn't pick me, if I wasn't good.
It's not just you pitched in the All-Star game. You started the All-Star game.
Well, that's what I mean. I wouldn't have started it if he didn't think I was worthy of it. So I was good. I had my career was shortened because I had a botched elbow in surgery. The doctor said I had bone chips in my elbow in about a year and a half into my career, and when the doctor went to do the surgery, he had to cut a tendon, and that was, for all intents and purposes, a kiss of death for my career. Although I did recover a little bit, but then I hurt my shoulder trying to alleviate the discomfort I had in my elbow. And the problem with it, when he did the surgery, he had to cut a tendon. I think I just said that, but I'll say it again. And that's not good. Nowadays, if you have bone chips in your elbow, and you don't hear about it too much, what they do, they just suck them out arthroscopically. So so those are the things, and I wasn't at the right place. If you look, the thing you got to do is look at my minor league record. If you or anybody listening to the show looks at my minor league record, you know what they're going to say? How in the world did this guy take so long to get in the big leagues? I mean, I was a winning pitcher every single year in AAA, AA, and all the way down. I won 17 games my first year, 17 games my third year, 14, 13, and 14 in my 3 years in AAA, and always second division teams, and I couldn't get moved because I was in the wrong place. I was with Cincinnati at that time, and Cincinnati had a pretty strong pitching staff, even though New York was interested. I won't say tried. They were interested in my and seeing if they could get a hold of me because they needed a 4th starter. DeWitt blocked that. He said no. He put a price tag on me that was ridiculous. I got a newspaper clipping of that shows that. So anyway, those are the things that annoy me, and of course, being in the 60s, late 50s and 60s, we had to pitch complete games. That was our negotiating strength, complete games, and pitching every 4th day. We didn't pitch every 5th day. Never heard of a quality start. So all of these things, I'm sure, was not taken into consideration when this pension plan was drawn up way back when. I don't know when it was. And for me now, it's disappointing that you see guys with 2 or 3 years in the big leagues getting a pretty darn good pension, where none of us people in the 60s, late 50s and 60s who really worked hard to get to the big leagues were excluded.
And, well, if I could, Dave, and thank you for that eloquent, summation.
How eloquent it was, but that's.
It was. By far, no one's listening to me and Mark Weiss. They're tuning in to hear you. Maybe your kid, maybe Michael. But one of the things that I wanted to touch upon, your arm issues. That's one of the things that galls both Mark and myself, because eligible to be covered under the league's umbrella health insurance plan, whereas today all you need is to sit and ride the pines for one game day. I remember, I think a teammate of yours, most notably a fellow pitcher. Did you play with Marty Katina? Am I pronouncing his name?
Marty Katina.
Marty Katina. Now, he memorably caught JFK's ceremonial first pitch at the opening of the stadium that would be later named in honor of his late brother, Robert. And, of course, now it's Memorial Stadium. But he's had 3 heart attacks, and he has no health insurance. And it's a tragedy. You also alluded to something that Mark, my broadcasting partner, is very passionate about. And he knows where I'm going with this. You know, in unions, like where if you're in the electrical worker, I mean, and you spend 12 years, Mark, why don't you take it from there? Tell the Stenhouses what you say on every podcast.
Well, yes, thank you for letting me jump in on that one. Yeah, first off, I have to preface it by saying that I'm not an activist. I'm just kind of like a regular guy. I would say I'm probably a centrist. I lean toward being a little bit conservative on financial things and stuff like that and military things. So I'm not an activist kind of guy. But I sure as heck look at it this way. If I worked for Local 3, or let's say Dave worked for Local 3, which is the local electricians union here in New York, he'd spend 3, 4, 5 years as an apprentice before he became a full-fledged card-carrying member. But his 3 or 4 years or 5 years or 6 years as an apprentice, guess what? That counts toward his pension time, and that counts toward his medical and everything all about it. Major League Baseball is the only union that I know of that says if you don't cross the line and hit the major leagues, everything you did in the minors, which was still professional baseball, and you were property of the team that put you there, especially back in Dave's day when the team basically owned you. You could retire and come back 40 years later and they'd still own your rights. You know,
correct.
As an apprentice in the minor leagues, that time should be counted toward your pension. I don't think that that's brain surgery or even asking for too much. Am I wrong, guys?
Well, I'm not going that route. That's a little too deep for me. I mean, there are too many. You might be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. You might be right, but they should certainly take it into consideration when you did spend a lot of time in the minors, and wrongfully you should have been called up sooner, and you weren't. Like I said before, obviously they did not consider those things when they were drawing up the pension plan in the beginning. Obviously they didn't. And now they're trying to say that they cannot amend the pension plan. Well, let me say this. When I retired, and I coached baseball for a while at Brown and Rhode Island College, but then I was also a full-time life insurance and retirement plan professional. And I learned a lot about pension plans. And although I'm not an expert in it, I did work with people who were. And Major League Baseball is trying to say that they cannot amend the pension plan. That's a lot of baloney. They can amend a pension plan. There's a way around it. And so unless the experts I work with are wrong, someone else is wrong. So I'm going to just jump in and tell everyone that Dave Stenhouse is not wrong, because one of the highlights of a certain book called A Bitter Cup of Coffee is an employee benefits specialist named Robert Dean, who's tried cases in the state Supreme Court out in California, the same one that upheld the dismissal of the 2003 class action lawsuit that these men filed long ago, says it very clearly. Any pension plan can retroactively restore into coverage the men who clearly are not fully vested. Now, I'm realistic. There is no way, no how that, and by the way, yes, Rob Manfred, I'm not going to say he's not culpable in this, but, you know, the person who's wearing the evil hat here, the black hat, is Tony Clark. Tony Clark of the Players Association, who should know about the trials and tribulations it takes
to become